Welcome to This Explainer. I am stepping in as your managing director today, and we are acting as your insider guide to mastering Cambridge Section 4.2 kinematics. Specifically, we're locking in on those SUVAT equations for constant acceleration. But listen, whether you are studying for your IGCSE, O-levels, AS, or A-levels, we are stepping out of the traditional classroom today and right into the boardroom. I want you to treat this like an elite executive pitch masterclass. We are going to discover together exactly how to structure your exam responses with the absolute clarity, authority, and precision of a top-tier executive consultant. Because in the high-stakes environment of mathematics, your examiner, they are your absolute highest value client. They come to you with a brief, they have incredibly strict compliance standards, and they are sitting across the table waiting to see if your proposal, which is your exam answer, is actually going to close the deal. So grab a seat at the table and let's get into the proposal brief.
Right, let's quickly glance over today's boardroom itinerary. First up, we'll tackle the kinematics trap. Second, the core principles of SUVAT. Third, we map out our problem-solving methodology. Fourth, we dive into the method mark strategy. And finally, we'll review the top examiner warnings.
Okay, moving right into Section 1, the kinematics trap. Let's see how to avoid dropping those incredibly easy marks.
So, here is the big question. Why do otherwise smart students lose easy marks on these SUVAT questions? Well, if we look at the principal examiner reports, they show that students routinely fail because they miss key terminology distinctions and entirely ignore structural formatting. To really visualize this, I want you to imagine two junior consultants sitting on our mock corporate team today. We'll call them Consultant Alex and Consultant Sam. Now, Consultant Alex is absolutely brilliant with raw data. Alex knows every single SUVAT equation by heart, backwards and forwards. But when Alex hands over the proposal, the working is a total mess. Variables are completely unlabeled, the numbers are scattered everywhere, and the client, our examiner, just gets lost in the noise. On the other hand, we have Consultant Sam. Sam is a highly persuasive speaker, great at the big picture, but Sam always skips the rigorous step-by-step mathematical proofs and jumps straight to the final conclusions. No physical asset backing, no case study, just a final number. Guess what? Both of them fail the examiner's strict audit. They completely lack formatting and a logical sequence. Look, in the real corporate world, if you hand me an unformatted, chaotic spreadsheet, it gets thrown straight in the bin. In the exam room, an unformatted SUVAT response loses its methodology marks instantly.
Now, I want you to really absorb this exact insight directly from Cambridge. Memorizing equations is simply not enough anymore. You need to demonstrate a holistic, connected mastery of the concepts. This right here is the fundamental difference between a junior employee and a senior executive. A junior employee like Alex just memorizes the 4 basic SUVAT formulas and hopes for a textbook scenario. But an executive-level candidate, they understand the why behind those formulas. They possess this connected conceptual understanding that allows them to pivot immediately when the client suddenly changes the scenario. Let's say the question introduces a particle moving on an inclined plane instead of a nice, easy, flat surface. A junior panics. An executive adapts. Your examiner wants to see that your theoretical architecture isn't just memorized fluff, but rests on precise definitions and genuine causal relationships.
Let's transition into Section 2, the core principles of SUVAT and those all-important cognitive domains. The syllabus is explicitly designed to test these 3 distinct cognitive domains, which means your evidence-based reasoning is being audited right alongside your final numerical answers. Let's break down these compliance standards in our strategy debate. Consultant Alex and Consultant Sam are at the whiteboard right now trying to figure this out. Assessment Objective 1, or AO1, is knowledge and understanding. Do you actually know what the SUVATs stand for? Displacement, initial velocity, final velocity, acceleration, time. Alex is great at this. Then we have AO2, application. Can you take those variables and apply them to a real-world physical model? But AO3? AO3 is analysis. This is the executive tier. Can you interpret complex relationships, extract hidden data from dense texts, and draw undeniable evidence-based conclusions? Sam might be good at the big picture, but without the AO2 application proof, the AO3 analysis falls apart. Your examiner's auditing your pitch across all 3 of these domains simultaneously. You cannot skip one and expect to close the deal.
And this concept right here brilliantly illustrates what principal examiners are hunting for. Candidates who reference cross-topic connections and integrate different syllabus areas achieve significantly higher marks. In the boardroom, we call this cross-departmental synergy. Think about it. If a kinematics question suddenly requires you to set up a quadratic equation to solve for time t, you are no longer just sitting comfortably in Section 4.2 kinematics. You are now actively pulling from pure mathematics. The candidates who score the absolute highest, the ones who secure that top-tier executive status, are the ones who seamlessly integrate these areas without missing a beat. They don't freeze up when a kinematics problem suddenly demands calculus or trigonometry. They recognize the cross-topic connection, they leverage their entire academic portfolio, and they deliver a comprehensive, airtight solution that leaves the examiner with literally no choice but to award full marks.
All right, moving to Section 3, the problem-solving methodology. This is where we build your step-by-step framework.
Let's bring Alex and Sam back to the interactive wall display in our boardroom to map out a repeatable system that ensures they never drop a point again. This 5-step pipeline is your non-negotiable blueprint for success. Step 1. Deconstruct. What is the client actually asking you to do? Find the hidden meaning. Step 2. Extract. Pull out your knowns. Literally list your S, U, V, A, and T values on the page. Step 3. Select the analytical framework. Which of the 4 constant acceleration equations mathematically bridges your known variables to your unknown target? Step 4. Execute with clear notation. This is exactly where consultant Alex usually crashes and burns by writing messy, unreadable numbers. You must execute cleanly. Step 5. Present with correct terminology. Make sure your units are completely correct. Are we talking meters per second or meters per second squared? If you miss the squared, you've just given the client the wrong product. This pipeline is your daily operational standard.
Building on that pipeline, the crucial point here is that data interpretation and presentation are bound by incredibly strict conventions. Ignoring these rules is literally like leaving free money or free marks on the boardroom table. I want you to think of this exactly like the Peel formatting matrix used in high-level essay writing. Point, evidence, explanation, link. Your mathematical syntax needs to be just as strictly structured. Using proper headings, keeping a logical vertical format, and adding clear annotations. These are the things that magically transform a chaotic, scribbled page of calculations into a highly authoritative executive summary. When Alex and Sam finally start aligning their math to this matrix, the difference is night and day.
Which brings us to Section 4, the method mark strategy and risk management. But before we get into fixing the fatal flaws in our mock pitch, to ensure your academic portfolio remains highly competitive, you need to subscribe to our channel Ace the Exams at the handle @AceTheExams, and make sure you enable notifications for our weekly consulting insights. Okay, let's get back to the boardroom and fix this pitch.
We are now entering the live audit workshop portion of this explainer. I'm stepping in as your chief auditor, and we are going to look exactly at how risk management works in the exam room. Consider this an absolute red-level examiner alert. Marks are extremely generously awarded for the process itself, meaning your clear, systematic working is your best possible insurance policy. Let's do a live audit on consultant Sam right now. Let's say Sam decides to be a hero, does all the complex algebra in his head, and writes down a final answer of t equals 4.5 seconds. But he totally missed a crucial deceleration phase in the prompt. Because he didn't write anything down, the final answer is wrong and he gets absolutely 0 marks. Complete deal breaker. Now look at a professional, executive candidate. They explicitly write the chosen formula, they substitute the values clearly on the next line, they manipulate the algebra step by step. Even if their finger slips on the calculator during the final keystroke, the examiner looks at that beautiful visual trail, sees the correct analytical framework, and awards the method marks. Showing your working is literally the safety net that dictates the difference between an A and a B grade.
By actively employing this deconstruct, solve, and evaluate approach, you are physically showing the examiner your flawless reasoning step by step. It guarantees those method marks. Now let's run case 2 of our risk assessment workshop, identifying structural credibility loss. Where does a standard average answer lose its structural credibility? I'll tell you, it almost always loses it right at step 4, checking for reasonableness. Imagine you calculate the velocity of a manually thrown tennis ball and your math spits out 3,000 meters per second. A junior student like Alex just circles that massive number and confidently moves on to the next question. But an executive-level student, they look at that number, they pause, and they recognize that 3,000 meters per second is literally faster than a military fighter jet. They instantly realize there is a fatal error in their structural calculation, they flag it, and they recalculate. Evaluating your own performance and spotting absurdities in real time is the absolute hallmark of a top-tier candidate.
Let's wrap up our framework in Section 5, the top examiner warnings and how to handle them.
So we've built the framework, we've set up the risk management protocols, and now we need to conduct a post-mortem. We are going to look at the exact reasons past pitches failed. The principal examiner reports are basically the client handing you a list of reasons they rejected previous proposals. I want you to lock these top 3 warnings into your brain. Warning 1 and 2 revolve heavily around presentation and format, which we have audited extensively today. But warning 3 is the silent killer. Answers are not specific to the context given.
Let's do a rapid 60-second visual extraction test right now. If a problem states that a particle comes to rest, that is a massive contextual clue screaming at you that the final velocity, v, is exactly 0. If you do not explicitly state v equals 0 in your working based on that text cue, the examiner cannot legally award you the translation mark for turning text into mathematical data. You absolutely must anchor every single number you write down to the physical reality of the specific scenario you've been given.
Look at this comparison on the board. This is where we separate the entry level from the boardroom. A standard problem-solving approach just stops dead at the final number. But top-tier, evaluative thinking demands that you actually justify your recommendations and question the underlying assumptions. For example, when consultant Alex just leaves a naked number at the bottom of the page, that's a standard answer. But what if the question asks, will the two particles collide? A standard junior answer just calculates two random distances and hopes for the best. Evaluative executive thinking, that calculates the distances, compares them at a specific time t, states explicitly whether distance A is greater than or equal to distance B, and then writes a formal concluding sentence explicitly confirming or denying the collision based purely on that mathematical evidence. You are justifying your corporate decision with hard, undeniable data.
So, to close the deal, whenever a question demands comparison, it is absolutely imperative that you use this exact checklist to secure maximum points across the descriptive, analytical, and evaluative levels. Think of this as your executive framework summary checklist for the final draft. If the client asks you to compare two different kinematic models, maybe one has constant velocity and the other has constant acceleration, you cannot just describe them in isolation. You have to use strong comparative connectives like whereas, conversely, or in direct contrast to. You must draw definitive conclusions about the relative impact of that acceleration on the final displacement. Doing this successfully, this is hitting the absolute highest tier of the syllabus. This is the AO3 analysis domain fully realized, and this is how consultant Alex and consultant Sam finally get their pitch approved.
I really hope this masterclass explainer has completely transformed the way you approach kinematics. You now have the exact executive tools to approach any SUVAT question, not as a panicked, stressed-out student, but as a methodical, authoritative consultant ready to ace the pitch. So, knowing full well that method marks heavily reward the process, how are you going to structure your very next answer to prove your absolute conceptual mastery to the examiner? Think about it. Now, as a final call to action, to keep getting these high-level strategies, make sure you subscribe to Ace the Exams at the handle @AceTheExams. Absolutely hit that notification bell so you don't miss a brief, and drop a comment down below telling us your current academic level and your target subject. Class dismissed. I'll see you in the next boardroom session.